And we're live. Welcome, everybody. This is the Reality Czars podcast, and I'm your only host tonight, Nate. Or today, I guess it's early. It's 9 a.m. for me. I have the great Sean McCann on. Thank you, brother, for joining us.
It is
like
my
I was
pleasure.
telling you earlier,
Mhm.
I've been a fan of yours for a while. I've heard you on a lot of different shows. Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you, man.
Wonderful, Nate. Thank you for that. And it's an honor to be invited. I love the idea of spreading my, whatever I can say to more people, and I'm interested in speaking about whatever you want to talk about. I've had I've had a lot of topics on my show over the past couple of years that I've been running it, and there's still more to go. It's an endless rabbit holes, and thank you for inviting me. That's what I want to say.
Absolutely, man. I was also excited when I found out you were an anarchist because there's not
Oh
enough
yeah,
anarchists in this conspiracy game, and there's a lot of
right.
bootlickers, and
Yeah,
I love them too. They have time. They'll wake up as well, but
right.
um, it's fun to speak to a fellow anarchist. So
Well, cheers, brother. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
cheers.
that anarchy is the only moral way of living life, and we own our bodies, and that's self-evident. I mean, I have free will. I do what I choose with my body, and the only way that you can make slavery actually happen is by mind control and making
Yep.
people choose to follow orders. And so, an anarchist is someone who is not a slave. And God bless you for realizing that you're not a slave. That's great.
Cheers,
Cheers.
brother. Yeah, I was
Cheers.
telling you just a second ago before we got started. It's like, as an agorist, like I have friends that freak the fuck out. They're like, "Did you know they just passed some new fucking gun law?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"I had no idea.
right.
I don't give a shit."
Right. Yeah, it doesn't affect you if you aren't under the illusion that it does, you know. And really, all they can do is come at you with violence, and they're going to do that anyway. So you might as well be
Yeah.
armed up and, defend yourself. So, anyway.
Well,
So, what did you want to talk about today?
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about because, dude, you've been doing some great episodes on SRA,
Mm.
and some fascinating stuff with Julia too. Julie's awesome. Talking
Yeah.
about like the Barbie shit and all that kind of stuff. Like, so just everything, man. Just
Everything? All right.
yeah,
All
let's
right.
just have a fun conversation,
Right on.
or a horrible conversation.
Well, that's for the
Have
listeners
fun
to
while we're having
choose.
a horrible conversation.
Right, right, right. Right. Well, I guess we can start with SRA. The listeners probably should be already hip to what it is, but for everybody, just to lay it out there, satanic ritual abuse. That's what SRA stands for. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, the people that conduct it don't have to believe in Satan for it to be true. So it's actually a mind control system. Humans are wired for love and human connection, and with trauma, that can be rewired and hijacked. Trauma causes us to wall off our memories and our mental processes. And like I'm not an SRA doctor, so I can't tell you the exact, but with trauma we can react as a computer does. We can be programmed, and if you attack a child, that programming is part of its personality. So it's a way of creating a total slave for when they become an adult. It's a system, it's scientific system of trauma, and they inflict it on their own, the power elite, the dark occult, inflict it on their own children, because psychopathy is not a trait that is genetic. So it has to be forced into the mind of the child so that the child will grow up to have the same satanic ideals as the father, and so he can pick up the reins of the business that the father has been doing. And this goes back uh, family lines to back to Babylon. Satanic ritual abuse is a ancient practice, and has evolved over the years. And the Nazis got a hold of it during the early years, and they were implementing it in the torture of the people in the concentration camps, and they made it really scientific. And they found the boundaries of how far you can torture somebody before they find where the brain will crack, and so this information was taken up by the U.S. government during the Project Paperclip and all that stuff. We adopted it into our own methodology, and now the government and many governments around the world implement satanic ritual abuse on a wider scope, on a lesser level, but they traumatize us to create the reactions that they want. So 9/11 was one of those, and this latest medical health scare thing that we've went through in the past couple of years, that is another one. And it's if you understand the mechanics of satanic ritual abuse, then you can see it in the world around us. It's like shock trauma, like a problem reaction solution. If the problem is trauma, it affects our minds differently, and we react instead of respond. Um, yeah. So I don't know if you want to say anything on that, but I've got the legal definition of what the practices of SRA are. And if you want, I could read through that. There's 7 things that.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I'm curious about that. I was also going to ask you: is this SRA? Is it recognized by like doctors? Do they say
Hmm,
they call it SRA when they work on this sort
some
of thing?
do.
Or,
Yeah,
hmm, yeah,
some psychologists recognize that this is happening. Others are under the illusion that it does not happen and it doesn't exist.
yeah.
And
I would imagine that Rockefeller
right,
medical teaching, or you know,
yes, yes,
runs
A-
deep.
and yeah. Plus the fact that they relate it to Satanism. The atheists, I mean, they've the satanic cabal that has been running things since Babylon um, is they've convinced us that there is no God and there is no Satan, and this. I mean, Satan isn't to them, the Satanists. It's not a real entity. It's just a philosophy. It's a way of
Yeah,
thinking.
I think that honestly is a fucking psyop in itself. I
Yes,
think that's them trying to convince you that they don't believe in Satan.
right,
I think that's them trying to convince you that they're like,
right,
no, that's all just foolishness. There's
right.
no God. There's no Satan. There's only man. We are our own God. That whole
Yeah,
psychotic thing. When
yes,
honestly, they wouldn't be doing the weird shit that they do if they didn't actually believe that there was a Satan. Like the weird
probably. Yeah.
symbolism that they do, like that, like okay, that one weird chick, Esperanza, whatever her name is, when she was up there with man, I was talking to my wife about this last night. Now I'm not going to remember any of it. With John Legend, when she started doing the back, the up and down,
Oh, the
just
Salve
these people,
Coagula.
like
Like,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then what's her name? Halsey. I don't even. These people don't even need to be talked about. But she's
There's a
coming out
lot
with
of
some
them in
album called
Hollywood.
like Diablo, and she came out as
Right.
Lilith, and there's a big like Satan thing behind her. Like how
Right.
much of this is like
That's
shock show theater? How much of
mm,
this is like, do they think that they're actually like gathering like energy from doing these rituals? Like do you think that they believe in a Satan? Some of them, like, because it feels to me like
Yeah.
they have some weird fucking religion. All of these psychopaths,
Yes.
and they all adhere to the same symbolism. They all
Right.
adhere to the same rituals. They
They
all
do.
have the same, like, it's fucking bizarre, man. And it
Yeah.
goes to like Saturnian kind of like black
Right.
cube, fucking
Right.
wild stuff,
Right.
man.
The cube, the tesseract, the fourth dimensional cube, the hypercube. It's like extruding into the next dimension up. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much of it is they actually believe in it and they're trying to convince us that they don't, like, we don't believe in Satan. That's silly.
Right.
And
Well, this
I don't
is
know.
this the display is what fellow researcher Leah Boone calls dark shine, where they can be so blatant and so upfront with their symbolism. It's like a dare, and it's like an ego thing. If they can show you exactly what they're doing to us, and we are just like, duh, that's cool, then it's power. And when they conduct these rituals, like the Super Bowl with Katy Perry, and she's riding the cat beast, and it's all mirrors. Like, whoa, that was it was conducted on Imbolc, which is February 2nd, which is a high holiday. It's related to the Sol Invictus, their black sun. Anyway, that
The Super
basically
Bowl, the
this
superb
is
owl, the,
right,
yeah, the,
right, right. Yeah, and the owl is the wisdom. It's a nocturnal predator. Like it's if you look at the symbolism of the owl and with the plumb line, and anyway, we don't need to get into that. But basically, if they can show us the symbols and flaunt their religion, uh, that is like it shows the others in the cult how secure they are and they are on the right path. Look how all of these people are, they're gaining riches and they're having power over others, and they're open about it. There is a thing called mansrea, I think that's the term, where if they show us what they're doing and we don't object, then karmically it's all good. They can stomp our heads in. But if we recognize that they're going to stomp our heads in and we refuse or resist, then we are awake and aware and we don't deserve to get stomped. That's kind of how they work. They believe themselves to be awakened, conscious human beings. And those of us who don't use our mind and our consciousness, we are beasts of burden, cattle to be used. And,
well, they like to call themselves the illuminated ones.
right, right,
Yeah, they are the.
right. So an and their symbol of that is the eye within the pyramid, being having light, right? And that can loosely be referenced to the third eye, of the in between the two halves of our brain. If we can engage both sides of the brain, the third eye can be accessed and utilized in our conscious awareness. So this
So,
is,
Sean, I'm
yeah,
curious on your opinion on this. So, they are so enlightened. They're so brilliant. They have all this like knowledge. They're the they're the awake ones. We're the dumb ones. Why do they have to be such cunts about it? Like,
well, yeah.
why do they therefore they're like, so we're gonna be assholes.
Well, I
We're
think
going
that,
to systematically like abuse these people mentally, physically, sexually, like.
that's how they make us slaves. That's the system. It's the mechanics of our mind. So like they are working with advanced psychology, basically. That's what it is. That's what magic is.
Do you
Personal
think they
magic.
are afraid of us? Do you
Well,
think
yeah. I
that
mean,
they
the
like they
numbers
have
that
to
we
keep
have.
us? Yeah, I mean, because I just think if like would there be? I'm just playing devil's advocate. Would
Hmm.
there be a way for them? They are so enlightened. They probably have technology we've never seen before. They probably have, they have all the money. Like they have
Right. They make the
the
money. They
power and the
create it.
systems, and yeah,
Right.
they have it like all together. Couldn't they be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, could they be nice rulers? What do
Well,
they
if
think we'll
see,
rise up and take it away from them if we
well, I
do?
mean,
Or,
you as an anarchist understand that they can't be your ruler.
yeah,
So, in order to rule us, they need to traumatize us and make fear. So that is the opposite pole of love. And if we are working with love and free will, they can't touch us. They don't have any power. So, in order to have power over others, they need to systematically traumatize us so that we react as animals, like with our fight or flight. And that's where they are comfortable. That's why people call them reptiles or whatever. I mean, because they are working with a reptile brain, the fight or flight or freeze. And the trauma that they inflict, they want to get that freeze, the dissociation, because that is the moment when they can attack us and we are unwitting slaves. Uh, so when they circumcise us as babies, that hardwires the brain to dissociate because you can't run, you can't fight. All you can do is leave your body and try not to feel the pain. Your consciousness pop out. So that is an example of how they create on the wider scale a more dissociative populace, where when there's a trauma happening, they just freeze like a deer in headlights, and that's when they can just roll over us,
yeah.
churn us under into the. Um, I
Yeah, you're right. I
right,
think about it because if the populace was comfortable, if we had all of our needs met, if we don't necessarily need them for
right,
anything,
right,
right? And so it is one of those things where they've taken our ability to do it ourselves, and you've seen them do that slowly and make it so convenient for us to just be consumers.
right,
So they've taken away like our yards. They've told us to plant grass, things that we can't eat. You know,
right.
that's retarded.
And
First of
your
all,
grass is a status symbol because
yeah,
yours is greener than your neighbor's, and you're better at it, like or whatever. Some
exactly. Yeah,
bullshit,
yeah.
right?
I want my tomatoes to be better than my neighbors, but then I also want to share with my tomatoes with my neighbor because maybe his carrots are better than mine. You know.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
See, you understand the reality. Like there can be, there can be abundance and beauty everywhere on all sides of the fence, you know. And if you cultivate your own and share it outward, you're working with abundance, and the everyone else's abundance will also come into your life. That's what agorism's all about, and
It is.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm glad you have that understanding. That's great. So yeah, earlier you asked, do they have a religion? Yes, I think they do. Satanism is just a term that they apply because Satan is the resistance force, the and the deceiver, and he has a false light. There's the Lucifer thing.
Hmm.
All of the secret societies and the Freemasons and stuff. When you get in the higher orders, it's all Luciferian Satanism. So even Satanism itself is an aggregator of psychopathy, of people that have been in living in this society. We grow up becoming secondary psychopaths. We get this worldview poisoning, and we think that there is no abundance and scarcity, and we need dog eat dog. You got to kill others to win. Like I myself was a Satanist in high school. I believed that love was just a chemicals in your brain type of thing, and I thought that we're all just here as a big accident, and I thought that religion is a mind control system keeping people as cattle, which it is. I mean, all religions are, but
You see,
um,
that's part of the psyop to me is that like because I listened to a Satanist the other day, and he was explaining if you meet this criteria, guess what? You're a Satanist.
right, De
Like
facto, you
de
don't even
facto,
get it
yeah,
right. So if
you're a
you believe
Satanist.
moral relativism, if you believe that there is a hierarchy of humanity, some people are better than others, like racism and whatnot, then you're gonna act as a Satanist. You're gonna think, oh, they deserve to get crushed. Oh, I deserve to take that. And and when they put that on all of society, then it's easier to control people because everybody is in fear of others, and it creates the division between people. And so yeah, it is like an organized system of religion that goes back to Babylon, and Baal, that the god, whatever Baal, that's a term to mean Lord, and in the pre-Judeo religions, the anyway, there was Baal referred to their god, and each tribe kind of had their own little god, and when one tribe defeated another, then that god was more powerful and whatnot. So there were a bunch of Yahweh cults, and the Canaanites were a Yahweh cult who sacrificed children. And in the fires of Moloch, and Moloch is the method of burning them. It's a sacrifice to their Lord Baal Yahweh, right? And it's this, the sacrifice of children has evolved in the Jewish religion to be just sacrificing the genitals, the foreskin, instead of killing the baby outright. They were attacking the next generation after that, like with that
That's
baby's
interesting. I
ability to
never
have
heard that.
kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's why it happens on the eighth day, because
yeah.
Yahweh used to take the firstborn male on the eighth day of all the beasts of the flock and your kids. And then, like, when Abraham was going to go kill his kid because Yahweh wants him to, he gets interrupted by an angel that says, "Hey, don't kill your kid, just chop his dick." You know, it's like it's a substitute, and it's even in the story. And when and Jesus and Christianity makes that not necessary anymore. Just like all the dietary laws, all that shit is no longer necessary. So all you Christians out there, do not circumcise your children. All children should never be
The
circumcised. It's
only
evil.
Christians that circumcise their children are American Christians.
Right.
I've talked to my friends in Europe and the rest of the fucking world. They're like, "Why would I do that? I'm not a Jew,"
Right.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't
Right.
make any sense. Like,
Right.
anyways,
It doesn't even make sense for
but
them,
American
but
Christians,
it's a
we
mind
were
control
fucking.
device.
It was a mind control thing, and
Mm.
we were very much like indoctrinated by Zionism,
Right.
and
Yes.
dude, American Christianity
Even
is
now, even now,
corrupted and disgusting.
the American APA, I forget what it stands for, but that's like it's run by Jewish Zionists, and they recognize that circumcision isn't necessary, but they still recommend it, just
Yeah.
like the jabs and
Well,
shit.
because you could get dick cancer. It's
Oh,
cleaner.
right,
It's
yeah,
they
bunch of
have a
excuses.
laundry list of
Right.
things. Yeah,
Back in the 70s, they were like, oh, when he grows up, he won't masturbate.
yeah,
Okay, chop it. And like before that, they were like, masturbation is why we have all the problems of society. And
yeah.
it's more mind control.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, my first son, I just thought you're supposed to. Like, I'm circumcised. Like,
Yeah.
girls are gonna think it's gross,
I'm sorry for
you
that,
know.
man.
So
Yeah.
my littlest one, he hasn't had a poke. He
Good.
hasn't had a snip. He's
Good.
intact.
That's great.
He's good to go.
That's
Uh,
beautiful. I hope everybody's kids from now on, like, it really has to change. And it's easy to change. All we got to do is talk about it and recognize that it is harm. You know, there are people out
we have
there that
to
are
fight
fighting for.
things, man, that are just
Right.
ingrained in us. Like
Right.
that was just I assumed.
Yeah.
Well, of course I'm gonna circumcise him.
Ugh, I know. Of course I'm going to traumatize my kid. Yeah, right. And it's like even people that understand like what genital mutilation does, how it harms kids, people like Matt Walsh or whatever, he says that it's a crime and we shouldn't mutilate children's genitalia. And then one of his listeners says, "Yeah, what about circumcision?" And he says, "You're stupid. Oh, you shouldn't. How can you think that circumcision? That's what the left wants and shit." He's totally under mind control, dude. It's like, what
That's
the
gross.
f?
Genital mutilation.
How?
Because,
I mean,
oh, but
how can?
circumcision, you have to do that.
Right,
That's what Israel says.
right, right. So there are levels of mind control. You
That's
know,
a bit. I haven't
like
heard that.
dude, yeah, Matt Walsh is total retard. I mean, he made a good movie. The what is
Sure,
he's right on
he
some
made
things,
a
but
good
he's a
point.
total retard. One
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of people have to, we have to shed the illusions, and the more illusions you shed, you come down to self and understanding your own power and your own free will. So like, religion is one of those veils, and when you like some people choose to keep their religion because it has beneficial power, like it has a beneficial thing. Like if
I did.
right, like I
Yeah.
mean, if anybody,
I
I'd
consider
be
myself a Christ
Christian.
follower.
Right,
Yeah.
right, because that energy is what's true and real, and I recognize that. And so anyway, but like the idea of like you must follow these rules, and this person is like your ruler. Like it's obvious. Like any kind of hierarchical structure is satanic because if you don't use your free will to make your actions, then you might be doing wrong and harm to others. So that would be you would be the arm of evil. You'd be acting evil in the world. Like that's what police, that's what military, that's what they do.
That
They're the
is
ones
funny
that
though,
need to
because
wake up.
like the Satanists would tell you if you do what you want, then you're being satanic also, because do as thou wilt, you
Right.
uphold the law.
Right.
I don't know. That's
Yeah, Crowley actually, there's a second part of that where that says, "Love is the law, love under will." And then everybody gets hung up on love being under will. What the heck? But love is the foundation structure that will is built upon. That's why it's more powerful. So people do what they love. So, like, if you're doing what your body wants, then, you're being a beastly, satanic person that's not caring about others. But if you are in tune with your heart and your care, and you are recognizing that we're all aspects of the, like, consciousness is self-similar in, even though you are in a different body, you share that same spark of consciousness as me. So I recognize you as a soul in a body. So if you already recognize that stuff, and then you look at Crowley's words, and you see, "Do what thou wilt," like your will shall be the whole of the law. Like it's because that's true. You have free will. What you will is what happens. That's the law of nature. No one else can move your body around. So, but if your will is built upon love, then you are acting as in the world as your higher self would want. So, your true will is what your spirit wants your body to do, right? And if you can find that and have it be based in love, then there will be no violence in the world. If everybody can get that and recognize that, oh, my will is my higher will and it's built on love, then, I mean, it's simple. But people look at Crowley. Crowley, he said a lot of real things, and he was a really bad person. I guess, everybody needs to see for themselves if these laws are true, right? And he had a lot of programming with religion when he was a kid. His parents were, you know, doing that to him as a kid. Like, so anyway, he had. It took him his whole life to recognize this as true. Like when he was in the pyramid and he got that download from Aiwas or whatever, he didn't realize what it meant. And then in his later years, he had grown as a person. And like we all have an arc of lifetime, and we all discover. And he did work with MI6, and he was, in the secret societies, and he did call himself the Beast, and he did kill a cat 9 ways. And, he did bad things. So I'm not saying he's a good person, but I am saying the things that he realized, I recognize many of them to be true. Uh,
Yeah, and I think people are complicated.
yeah,
People are
yeah,
not just,
right.
and there is no just good and evil. Um,
I mean, there's
the
evil
worst piece of
actions.
shit,
Hmm.
they can be kind to their kids. They can be sweet. They can be gentle in a, I mean,
Yeah, like the illusion of a
Hitler
good cop.
apparently loved his dogs and
Right,
fucking was super sweet to his dogs.
right.
Like
He was a
that's
vegetarian.
that's a complex human being. Like
Right,
he can just find this like empathy and love and like this connection with his
right,
dog, and
right.
then he can be like, yeah, go kill the fuck out all of them.
Right. I mean, he didn't believe that shit. He put that on the crowd it's a psychological system. If you can otherize your neighbor, then you can create hatred and you can make them follow. It's a mind control device. It's just another
Yeah,
program. So like, I mean, he doesn't hate the Jews. Like he was working with them. It was a system, like, and if he could demonize people, then he can, just like this whole psyop that we've been living in the last couple of years. Oh, anti-masker,
if he can
anti-vaxxer, man.
make you feel like you're a victim
Yeah.
and you are being victimized by this group
Oh
X
yeah.
over here,
Right.
then you are all going to find like solidarity with each other and be like, yes,
Yeah.
all these problems are because of X.
Right.
X did this to me.
Right.
And then
And
we're all together and we have to oppose X.
right.
And yeah,
And this leader guy is going to help us do that. And if I just
he has
become
the
part
answers.
of
He
this
knows how to take care of
cult,
X. He's going to
right?
take us to the next level. He's going to take care of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's
these are
brilliant
all.
and
So
evil.
they're all mind control systems,
It's
and
funny
like,
how communists try to act like they're different. They were just blaming the
yeah.
bourgeoisie,
Right.
right? And so, we're the proletariat.
Right.
We're being victimized by the bourgeoisie, by the rich people. It's all the same shit.
Right. And it was all created by the same people.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like,
yeah, and like yeah,
yeah, like
it's
it wasn't like
funny.
Trotsky and shit. Like he was in New York, and like, the British in their, rule Britannia days were in charge of all that. And then they came over and taught us how to do CIA, and they're ruling us by way of mind control,
Yeah,
like wielding us
it's
like a,
all like 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon, dude. I blame
yeah.
all modern problems on the British Empire.
Right. Me too.
So much,
Yeah.
dude.
And like them above them, like they work with as like the Knights Templar level, and the Knights Templar work for Rome, and Rome and London and Washington D.C. are all states unto themselves. It is a ruling. They are the invaders. They're on our land. But anyway, we don't need to go there. Those people, like they have the same ancient dark occult religion. Like they're all working in the same, because it all comes from the same. Rome. Um, they adopted many things from other, you know, uh, territories that they've conquered, and one of them was Magna Mater, the um, the the goddess, the mother of all gods or whatever, and that was Ishtar, Inanna, the same.
Gaia is the name.
Well, Gaia is like a new term, I think, but
Okay.
Ishtar is the one from Babylon, who she had Tammuz was her consort, and the story of her going into the underworld and coming up again, and Tammuz going to take her place for 6 months. That's the same as the Persephone story. And Inanna had the same with, she went to visit Erishkigal in the underworld. Like it's the same. It's the fertility myth, and like Eyes Wide Shut is an example of the modern day same fertility myth. Like it's same fertility cult. They worship Ishtar, and they they do fertility, sex rituals, and those babies are used in their mind control and become like that's what Kubrick was displaying to us. That's why he showed us the Star of Ishtar at the party, and like it's all these symbols. Once you become aware of them and you've learned them, you see them in the world. And Hollywood is very knowledgeable, and some people, I believe, are free, and they are encouraging us to fight back against the black cube. Uh, anyway, I'm very excited. I just saw that film Nope by um, Jordan Peele, and I was
I haven't seen that yet.
amazed. Holy
Pretty good.
crap! Oh my God, it's a perfect rendition of our battle with the dark occult,
Mm.
and like the evil thing is a tesseract, like, and like it. I don't need to talk about it, but I'm gonna have
Go
to do
ahead,
it.
man.
Well, I'm just
Spoiler
gonna,
alert.
yeah, yeah. Well, I want people to see it because for themselves, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna do like a whole breakdown of this. I'm like all jazzed up on it, but there are
that's awesome.
people in Hollywood that are telling us like they're on our side, I think, and they're trying to awaken us, and they have the tools of the art, and they are
I hope
giving.
so. I don't
Yeah,
get too hopeful anymore on that
it's
sort of
tough.
shit because
Yeah, I know.
that's sort of how the Q movement.
Hollywood really sucks.
Yeah,
A lot of movies are
yeah.
crap.
Anytime that you're thinking like, hey, there's some good guys, there's some white hats,
Well, yeah,
that sort of thing.
they can make art, but they don't have their hands on the levers of power.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
I'd like to think that there has to be decent human beings in those places. It just
yes,
it's so hard because I
right,
think that there's the satanic gatekeepers,
right,
right? That it's
right,
like you have to join the club before you're not going to make
right,
it to this pinnacle.
right,
You can't join us, you
right.
know.
But if you create your own, like people like Mike Patton has like his own record label, Ipecac Records, and like I mean you can make your own label, you can make your own distribution, you
You know who's
can
a
do it.
fascinating guy, man, is who made his own studio, and it's kind of man, what the hell's his name? Mel Gibson.
Oh yeah,
Gibson
right,
is a fascinating dude,
yeah.
and like he's a dark guy. He's got some issues, but
Well, he gets drunk and he says the truth. He's
yeah,
he says, "Hey, you guys are but like in
alcohol is
any case,
probably a demon for him. He
well,
needs
that's
to
true.
probably stop that.
That's another way that they
Yeah.
control us, with addictions, and that's why a lot of the artists are heroin addicts and stuff, and when once they can't control you
Dude,
anymore, they
yeah, I
kill
was
you. You
reading
know,
about that. I was doing a little bit of work on that. It's like that's the reason why there's so much addiction in the music industry
right?
because it's a tool to
Yeah,
control you. They want
right.
you addicted to opiates because
Exactly.
then you are fucking easily manipulated. You
Right.
need this substance.
Right.
You're weakened. You're in a state that's like you're much more like
Right.
yeah, you're much more
You
comfortable.
don't have your own will because all
Yeah,
you want is the next bag. Like that's the tragic thing for Crowley. Like he's like, put Will on like a pedestal, but he had no will of his own. He was a heroin junkie his whole life. He had to quit doing heroin to have a son, and that was like one of the it like it doesn't your junk doesn't even work. Like it takes away everything, and all you care about is getting high again. And then
yeah,
when the British are the ones that own heroin and cocaine and the
yeah.
entire system of distribution of that stuff on the world market, then you're going to do what the British say, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's reasons for decades that like the United States was protecting heroin poppies in
Right.
Afghanistan, and now
Right.
we can do it synthetically. We have fentanyl, so what do we need the
Right.
opium poppies for? All right,
Right.
we'll let those hillbillies back in there. Those goat farmers, they can do what they want. And,
Yeah, so we got out of
fuck everybody who was
Afghanistan.
helping us over there, and
Yeah.
that's I don't know, dude. But also, I think they're all narcs. Like, I had
I
this whole thing
agree.
of like, dude, if let's say China invaded America and the people that were collaborating with China don't get taken back to China when China leaves, and then these guys get their asses beat, I get it.
Mhm.
Like, you were fucking collaborating with the United States, an invader.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I'm
need more
sorry.
guillotines.
I'm gonna kick the shit out of you, you
Right.
piece of shit. Like
Right. Yeah, we need this is how we
fucking
defend ourselves. Like really like they we need to use force. We can't just I mean, going down the rabbit hole and learning the truth is one thing, but you got to like act in the world. You know, you got to do in the world and we are in the state of duress. Like we are currently slaves kept as cattle and we need it's going to take action to get
well,
free. That's
here's
what
the thing that
that's what
libertarians
the
don't
three
like to hear.
percenters
It's
did
what
like
you're saying right now.
right, right.
And libertarians will say like the non-aggression principle, and they'll say like uh, take no harm, do no shit. Okay,
Yes.
but if you actually believe what you're talking about, the state has violated the NAP a
Right.
hundred times over.
They're doing it right now.
This second,
Right.
them taking money out of your check every month
Yep.
is a violation of the non-aggression principle.
Yeah.
Them telling you you have to have a license to drive is a non-aggression is breaking the non-aggression
Yeah.
principle.
And
Them
they use aggression if
them
you don't have
making
it.
me pay taxes when I buy a piece of fruit.
Right. Right,
That
exactly.
is a violation of the NAP. They put a gun to my
Right.
head and said, "Give me your fuck." Because otherwise,
Right.
would I voluntarily say, "I'm going to give you an extra like 5 cents every time I buy, anytime I
Of
buy a
course
soda
not.
pop"? There's a
Yeah.
10 cents thing they take away for a can out
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that voluntarily. I wouldn't give you a dime every time I buy a pop.
Right.
Okay, so they've already violated the NAP.
Right.
It's already
So
done.
that's making us slaves because we have to go to work in order to pay all this crap. Like and if they take 5% of your money or whatever, that's still 5% you're a slave. So
Yeah.
it takes there are a lot of non
But it doesn't
uh
matter how small it is because what is the threat of force? If I say no, what
right.
are they going to do?
Right. They're going to use
It's the
violence.
threat. There is a fucking threat
Yeah,
behind every single law. Every single
exactly.
law. I don't remember who said that, but it's fantastic. It's like every
That's true.
law. It was it Ayn Rand. I don't know, but but she said every single law should be followed by or I'll fucking kill you.
Well, yeah,
And
that's
so then
true.
you understand, because
Even
I'm not saying there shouldn't be laws, but
mhm.
I'm saying that there should be, you should know the severity of like, why are we doing, because there's so many frivolous laws, right?
Even the
There's so many
IRS
little
carries a
things.
gun.
Yeah. The
They all
post
have a
office
gun on
carries
their
guns,
hip.
man.
Yeah,
They have their own
right,
secret service. They have their
right.
own like police force,
Yeah.
SWAT
And
teams, and
so there is a potential with every interaction with the government to be shot. I mean, so we all need to have a gun too. Like, I think that's true. Um, and uh, pointing it at someone and pulling the trigger, I'm not saying that you need to do that. I'm saying that if they're pointing it at you, obviously defend yourself. But the fact that we are creative individuals who can think with many ways that don't harm, where we can take action. If you follow the non-aggression principle, that's great. But they are aggressing on us, so the take no shit has to be applied.
yes,
Like, look at what
the
happened
NAP
to
has been violated.
right. So we have to do what we can to free ourselves. Sometimes that takes action. Sometimes it can, and you can be creative about it. Um, but if it comes down to it, having to use a sidearm, I think that should be available for all people, and especially grandma. And you know
Yeah,
what I mean. I think that. But
just
anyway,
because I mean, even in just self-defense, because like I blame the government for a lot of the psychopaths around the country too. I
yes.
blame them for the serial killers. I blame them for the thugs in the streets
Right.
because they've been traumatized. They've done all kinds of things. They've systematically created a caste system that they've
Right.
created these people and they put them in these situations. Yes, do I give them bodily autonomy? Did they make those choices? Yes, but they were also like put into a system. The same reason why I thought it was just natural for me to get my son circumcised. It's the
Yeah.
same reason why they think that like I naturally have to fucking do X to survive,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
And
we
so it's
think
a
we
system.
need to have a job. We think we need to make money, and that whole we
Man,
think we
that's
need
a
to be
fun
on the
one.
wheel. Yeah.
I don't know how much you've dug into Cecil Rhodes, but
Oh
this
yeah.
one, dude, was a
Lots.
fucking fascinating one for me. Was listening
Yeah.
to that psychopath. Um, so in his own diary, and he's describing when he went to Africa. Right, he first went there for cotton, and then his brother turned him on to diamonds. So he went down to southern Africa, and so he's checking out these diamond mines, and he's seeing all these African folks. Okay, sorry to my audience that has heard me say this 100 times, but I'm just gonna say it 101. So he's got all these Africans, these tribal folks that are happy, like they have a house, they have their own property, they have their family, they have their gardens, they're
Right.
self-sustaining, and he's like, they don't want my fucking bullshit that I'm calling money. They don't. So, and like I'm trying to convince them to come work for like 10 hours a day in my shitty mine, and then I'm going to give them as little of this money as I possibly can, and they are like, fuck you. What the hell do I do about it? So you're watching this psychopath and like the wheels turning in his head, and so then he just starts. He's like, taxation.
Hmm.
So and it's a form of slavery, taxation.
Totally.
And so he was like, he started taxing them for like dumb shit. Like to do this, to do X, you have to. There's a tax involved now, and so then he had to get them involved in the money system that way, because to pay the tax, they have to have money.
Right.
And so he's watching this, and then he's slowly taking away their property, so then they can't grow their own food, so they're not sustainable. And so then they have to also have money to buy food that they grow that I sell back to them. Like this
Right.
crazy fucking horseshit, dude.
Yeah, it's
And
total
he's
slavery.
watching
And
him,
that's
yeah,
where we are
watching them
now.
just put the fucking chains on him, and I'm like,
Yeah.
motherfucker,
Yeah.
that's what they did to us. And you're
Then
just
look at
watching this British
look at
elite psychopath
right. Yeah, look at his
that started
psychology.
his that like
Right.
at
He
his
was
death was like, I want all my money to go into the formation of a secret society that will bring the United States back under the yoke of the British Empire.
right.
And like, oh well,
Yeah.
that success,
Right.
Kobe.
And then the
You did it,
rings
man.
within rings and the way
Yeah,
yeah, that's that's how power is structured. And I mean, that dude was probably SRA abused when he was a kid. He's part of that system. He was like I think he was, he was definitely queer, and he had like weird, like they raise their kids as the other sex when they're doing like if you read Kurth Barker, he'll describe how he had a female name, Kathy, and then they would use him for pornography and abuse him and whatnot. And then for the rest of the time, he was Kurth again, and he was a boy. So
they
the
do
whole
this to like
tranny
break you
thing
down in
is more,
every
yeah,
single way. Yeah,
right, right, and it's like erasing the real identity of the person, and then they're raised like that, so of course they're gonna try to do that to the wider population. They're pushing that, oh, children don't know what gender they are, and we can chop them up and all this stuff. Um, that is, those are all occult rituals, like the cult of Inanna that I talked about before, the Ishtar cult, and Cybele, Sabel or whatever. She was Magna Mater in Rome. Her priestesses were males that chopped off their cock and balls, and they would put a reed in their urethra so it doesn't seal shut and have. So anyway, then they dress as women, and then they would take it in the backside as a woman for the cult, and that's those are the only ones who were allowed to do the ritual rites, and they would flagellate themselves and get blood everywhere, and they would go through the streets, and Rome was like, whoa, those people are crazy. They made it a law, you can't castrate yourself, you can't even circumcise. They would crucify you if you did, because it's so abhorrent to humanity. So anyway, but that cult brought so much money because people would donate their daughters, their prepubescent daughters, to this cult, and then they would be raised as whores for the church, and they would make so much money, and they would give give to Rome what is Rome's, and Rome's like, oh, you're good, we like you, and they would allow them to keep going because it was such a money maker. And eventually St. Peter's Basilica was built on Cybele's church, like right there. Like I think that the Roman Catholic religion is an extension
It
of
is, man.
Cybele.
Someone I can't remember exactly what the Vatican means, but like
Mm,
I can't. Someone was explaining that to me. Like the Vatican itself, the name has some like deep occult meaning too. Like there's no way that like yeah, the Catholic Church was first and foremost. It was sun worship. Like
right.
it was, and it was taken, and it
Yeah.
was like I think that there was something
Jesus is
true
the
about
same as
Jesus's
Tammuz.
meanings, like Jesus's teachings and things like that. Like I find some truth to the teacher Jesus, and
Right.
it was like co-opted and taken, and then
Yes.
Christianity was made the state religion,
Right.
and that's always when you're, and what's his name was a sun worshiper himself,
Oh, yeah,
uh,
yeah. The
Constantine,
Constantine. Right.
yeah.
Right. Right. And the cross that he saw and he put on all the shields is like it could be the cross constellation, but it's also the same as the Templar cross, which is the same as the Knights of Malta, which is put on the crown of England, and that those people work for the Roman Catholic Church, like so it's a system of hierarchy and like it anyway, like if they can convince, I mean, what's the best way to make, like, they created the dark ages, the feudal society, like where everybody are beasts of burden on the land, like that's their dream, that's what they want again, that's what they're doing with the digital technocracy now, um they're like, this is uh like it's they in the those days they had the pope on top, and then the king or the bishops and the cardinals, and then the bishops and all this stuff, and down to the kings, and then the knights and the serfs, right? This is that's the dream of the Satanists. Like that's what the pope is still doing. In the before, it was the Caesar was the top, and you could, like, when they conquered your area or whatever, you can still keep your old religion. Just put a statue of Caesar in there and just say he's God, and we're good. Just pay your money, and so like that was the same. The Roman uh, rule of the world is still happening through the Roman Catholic Church. It's just a different system. It's mind control. This is because they can't control us all with force, like with the Roman army. It's not possible. They have to make us choose to follow orders. So like, the people that the people that populate the Pope's chair, over the years, those families are the ones who own BlackRock and Vanguard. Like, and those are the people, those are the companies that rule the entire financial system, and that financial system rules the governments, basically, and the governments rule the people. It's the same. It's
Yeah.
still happening, and so whatever. Listen to Johnny Cerrucci if you want to hear about the Jesuits and the Roman Catholic structure. But Britain is under that, and they always have been. It was like, that whole fight with Protestant, and that was their years of takeover, and now it's happened. They still have the Anglican Church, but they got the symbol of the Knights Templar as their main symbol, and the Knights Templar, who did they work
Yeah.
for, right?
And the Anglicans, dude, they're Catholic like. I've got a homie it's an Anglican priest, and there's a whole
Yeah,
movement
they modeled it
that's
on that.
underneath, and they shake hands.
Yeah,
Like there's a huge movement of Anglican priests that are actually Catholic,
right,
and they've converted back to Catholicism, and
right.
like
Yeah,
it's a
it's
huge movement
incestuous. It's
within
and it's
inside of the
evil.
Anglican Church, and he told
Right.
me all about it, like it's a good thing, and I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, yeah. Good thing. Yeah, if you look at the Vatican, you will see the symbols of the dark occult. I mean, you'll see Osiris's golden phallus, which was chopped off just like the priestesses of Inanna. That's weird. Why did Cybele's cult chop off their junk too? Why did Osiris lose his junk? What is that all about? It's all one big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's all the same. And you got the pyramid on top of this like shaft, whatever, and we have one in Washington, and
Every
the
time you see
city of
one of
London
those,
has
yeah,
one, Cleopatra's Needle,
the
and
Vatican
Rome
has
has
one.
one, the Vatican, right there in Saint Paul's Saint Peter's Basilica, which is the same place where Cybele's church was.
Yeah, man,
So, and like,
fascinating
and
shit.
that is inside a circle, which is like a feminine symbol, and it's also the map of the solar map, calendar, as well as the celestial, like in one. It's very intricate, and then you go and you look at, there's like this huge pine cone with like a coffin, you know, like what's that all about, right? That's not that Jesus didn't talk about that, right? And then you go and you look at all the statues, and there's a statue of Magna Mater. There's a statue of Cybele there with all the other ones.
Okay,
So
so there's a million things I want to ask you. So the first
yeah,
one, so the first one is this goes back to, do they believe in these deities? In your personal opinion, do you
mm,
think they actually believe in these deities? Is this more astrotheology, where they like map the stars and they say like, that sort of thing, and so it's like gods are actually just like astrotheology and worship of like the celestial things,
mm,
or like, because you even said that Crowley had that download like
right,
inside of the pyramid. Where did that fucking download come from? Did
right.
that was
I
that
do.
something of himself? Was that
Yeah,
like a
I
like
think that they. Well, I think they believe, like, if you look at the Goetia of John Dee, like his map of the demons and all this 72 demons, and like that can be related to parts of the brain
yeah,
and
that's what I
the
was gonna ask.
psychology of
Yeah,
people. So, like, if you are doing dark ritual, you are you are getting those sensory input to create that space in your mind where you can access these powers or whatnot. But also, I I think some of them do believe there are non-corporeal spirits, and I think that they speak to them. If you read Tracy Twyman, she'll tell you about how Baphomet is what the Knights Templar would worship. And Baphomet was a teraph, like a head on a plate, that would speak words. And they would they would do ritual and they would access this. And who knows if they're hallucinating it? Who knows if, because they take, ingest medicines, and they do rituals to put themselves in a mind space. So maybe that's why the mouth will move and tell them things. But Baphomet taught the Knights Templar about fractional reserve banking.
son of a bitch.
And that's like, that's what the Knights Templar, that's how they got rich, because they would take the people going to and that whole idea of like the Crusades, that was another, it's just like Ukraine now, like, hey, we're doing war, guys, and let's take your money. And it's like, so everybody's you got to go do the Crusades and whatever. So you got to bring your gold, and you stop at the Knights Templar and you give them all your gold, and they give you a piece of paper. And like you travel through and you spend your gold, and at the end you get all your gold back, right? So then they had all these gold
And hopefully you're
reserves.
dead. Hopefully you died in the war, and then they get to keep all your gold.
Yup, yup, exactly. Hopefully they die, just like now. Like, hopefully we said yes to the shot so they can, kill us before we realize, like, whatever. But anyway, like, this is having all this gold on hand. They were able to say, oh, I have all this gold and I can lend all this, like, and, Baphomet told them, nobody's going to ask for all their gold at once. You can lend more than you have. Like this. And like, oh yeah. And like, it's just the psychology of the people. They're going to think their money is safe and that this paper is money. And like, it's easier to carry on the road and you don't get robbed. And like, it's just like a credit card, you know, it's taking away the true wealth of the people. and enslaving them, and then they use all that money to further their interests in the financial realm, and they lend money to kings and stuff, and uh, they convince kings to go do wars, like it's all a big racket, and it's still happening. It's just, you listen to, like, have you ever seen Network, this movie from the 70s? It's a great movie. Everybody should watch it. And there's this businessman that is like screaming the truth about how, like, money is a worldwide system of control, and
I
this is
think
the
I've seen the
real
scene.
religion. Yeah, he's like, it's in like a darkened boardroom, and he's yelling at the. Anyway, that's the truth. Money is the new god of this world, and everybody does what it says. And nowhere that's more true than in the financial markets. If you look at the financial markets, they're investing more in funeral homes now, like, because they know what's happening, what those jabs are going to do to us in the future and the population. And so, like, they already know where reality is headed, like, and they're putting their money where that's where you see the truth of what they believe, because the money is the lifeblood of this whole thing, and money is mind control. Like, if I want that car that you have and you won't give it to me, I can convince you if I give you all this paper, because I know that you are under that spell, and you will take the paper happily, you
Yeah.
know.
If
So,
I
and
can
it
convince you that this piece of paper, this
is
piece
wealth.
of paper with this weird little symbols all over it
Yeah,
and this old dead man's face, if I can convince you that this has value,
right. Right. And it only has value because others also are under that same spell.
so
And
what is that?
it's
So the
a it's a
actual
shared
value
illusion.
is a shared illusion, right? And so
Yeah.
we have the power. We have the
Right.
power to make this valuable. We also have the power to
Right.
make this worthless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they if they
So
can,
we are the power.
right, with our will and our consent, we don't have to take dollars. We can trade. Like, I've always been a big proponent of cannabis as money. I think that, like, if you,
I
I mean,
take ammo. I take
yeah, that too.
anything. Dude,
Exactly.
people pay me
These
money
things are
bullets.
these are real things that have actual value. Cannabis is a medicine, and if you reduce it down to just oil, and you keep it out of the sun in, like, room temperature, it will stay good forever. And it will always, so just like gold, you can stash it away. And then the dried buds are easy to carry, and everybody likes them. And, just like cigarettes in jail. Like, you don't even, like, person that doesn't smoke will still stack up cigarettes as money because others do. So the
Yeah,
fact that everybody else wants a thing, and if you ask me, I'd say that 80 or 90% of the population does take cannabis in some shape or form. Like, it does have value, and it's evolved
I've been
as.
in the food service industry my entire life, and I knew dudes that were literally getting half their check paid in weed.
Yeah, sweet. That's
The
great.
owner grew a bunch, and they're like,
Wow.
take them a few ounces. Like,
See, that's the gray market is great for that, and that's what, like, that's I grew up being in the cannabis industry and understanding the black market and seeing the cops as enemies.
I
Um,
grew up in Humboldt County, so
oh, man,
I
lucky.
started growing weed when I was a kid, man.
Good for you, man. That's great. You're very lucky. I worked in Trinity for a little bit. It was good. But anyway, the or with people. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. But what I'm saying is that's true value, and that's what everybody wants. And it's, people think I'm crazy, but you can even invest in other cannabis grows and trade shares of it. You could have, like, you could do all kinds of stuff, like, and it doesn't have to be just that. It could be like
I knew a guy that did that,
honey,
and
or
he
like,
made a ton of money, dude. Like
right.
that, he was almost sort of like a kingpin kind of dude.
Good for him. Yeah, that's
He,
great.
what he'd do is he would set somebody up, like young dudes like me, when I was, when I was younger, and he
Put
had
you on
like me and a
credit and
buddy.
put you
Yeah,
on the
me and a
arm.
buddy. he pay for like he had this house. He
Right.
pay for like all the rent, this, that, and the other. And there was like a mattress, a refrigerator. We'd have a pit bull in there. We'd have a couple shotguns, and the
Yeah.
rest of the house was just all grow,
That's
right?
great.
And it looked like a normal house.
I hope you
And
kept the
he
dogs
paid
out of the
people
grow
that would,
room.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like he paid people to like come and mow the lawn and keep it up and make it
Yeah,
look
make it
like
look
a
normal.
house.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
and then
that's that's freedom right there.
yeah,
And it doesn't take violence for that. Your shotguns are there to defend
well,
because,
that's the only
you know,
reason why we had to have them,
exactly.
because if somebody's gonna come and yeah,
Right. Because it's on the black market and it's not banked and you can't prove it in court, they can steal it from you, whatever. But I mean, really, everybody can steal from you if they try and you don't have a gun. Like, um, so that, so that protects the investment, and that's, I think that's necessary. And I think pit bulls are great. I got one here sleeping on the floor. I think they're the best dog. But anyway, we don't need to talk about that. So, the if there you can be free and you can achieve that in a nonviolent way, and agorism creates a gray market and a black market, and that a black market means free. you know like that's the only in order to have a white market, that means that they are under the yoke of the government, which is under the yoke of the financial system, which is under the yoke of BlackRock and Vanguard, which is under the yoke of the Roman Catholic Church, and it's all being managed by Britain and the military of the United States. Like, oh, that's a pretty evil system. Maybe I don't want to be part of that. Maybe I can grow some stuff in my yard. Maybe I can create value, true value, and like have abundance. Like one apple has this many seeds. Whoa, I can make that many trees. Whoa. It's like as much as and plus, like with cannabis, as much effort as you put in, that's how much you reap reward out. Like it takes work to get the product, and like it takes skill. Like everybody can tell what's a good bag and what's gross, and like so there is value to it. Everybody can see it. It's unadulterated. Like with white powders, they can put whatever in it, and like could be fentanyl or whatnot. With cannabis, it's like what it is, and it's like anyway. But the amount that you put in to grow, that's how much reap you sow. So that's true, like meritocracy. You for people that work hard, they get more value. I work hard. I've worked 10 hours a day at a factory, grinding parts for air conditioners. I don't want to do that. I'm giving all of my effort to something that I don't care about. It is slavery. And I'll never achieve better if I keep doing that. It's a state of being kept down. And if I were to apply my efforts in growing more and more, then I would have even more wealth and abundance. And it is a true,
it's
uh,
a sad thing,
yeah,
Sean. Is I think about this a lot actually. There were so many young dudes my age. I think we were like one of those last generations that like we could look at, because I mean there was always, let's say you didn't want to go to college, let's say you wanted to be your own boss, do your own thing.
yeah,
This, in Humboldt County, it was very much recognized as this was a regular fucking thing, dude.
yeah,
You could just get some property and you could just grow fantastic weed and you could sell it and you could be self-sustaining and actually thriving.
right,
um, and I think that the state has looked at that and said, well, let's take that from under them too.
right.
And I think that they, I mean, dude, it was literal raids all the
They're
fucking time.
still doing raids, no matter how
Helicopters
legal it
coming and
is.
dropping
Yeah,
chemicals and trying to ruin your whole crop. And
gross.
they like have dudes with guns just
Plus,
coming
you
and
got the
fuck you up.
chemtrails and
But
shit. You got the
yeah,
aerosol,
but the
they're spraying
best thing they
barium
ever
and
did.
strontium.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And but the best thing they ever did to destroy the fucking weed market was sell it themselves. They
Right.
like they come in and just like,
Yeah.
and they've
California's
undercut it.
losing money, like
Yeah,
selling
but they're
cannabis. Like,
doing it on
what?
purpose. People
Right.
think they care about losing that
Right.
money. They don't give a fuck.
No.
It's
Yeah.
your money anyways.
Right.
They
And
took it from
you
you
know,
anyways.
if you
They don't
listen
give
to
a shit.
people, if you listen to people in Humboldt, in order to get the paperwork and all this stuff, it's almost impossible.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
and like if you don't have the paperwork, they're just going to stomp your head in and take your plants and like give you
Yeah.
fines. Like, what the? Why work
They've
with the
shrunk the
enemy?
world because now it's full of legitimate growers and they're being forced to sell it
Slaves.
for nothing.
Right.
Like, dude, holy shit! Yeah, I
Yeah.
can buy an ounce right now. I can go. There's weed shops around the corner. I can buy an ounce for $30.
Nice. Nice.
30
That's what
fucking. I mean,
it should
as a
be, a
pot
dollar a
smoker,
gram.
but
I think it should be $1 a gram.
the problem is that's dog shit weed. I mean, it's good,
Oh, a lot
like
of it is, yeah.
IKC, but Jesus Christ, the amount of like chemicals that they're putting on all that stuff, they're turning into like petrochemical. Like they've totally destroyed weed, man.
Yeah,
And
I'm
now this is
sorry.
what's easily available. I can just
Right.
go and get this crazy, crystally, fucking amazing fucking weed for nothing, and I'm just like dumping pesticides into my body.
That's how they get you, bro.
Yeah, man.
That sucks. That's
And then they
but at
just
least you have the
cut the
freedom to
legs
grow
out from
yourself.
under. Yes, you
Like
can.
like
But
on
like
one
then my
land you
local
can have
grower,
99 plants, like whatever, and you can, you could have abundance like crazy. Like one
yeah,
plant you could get 4 pounds if you do it right, you know what I mean? And good sun, like but then you got the freaking barium and the aluminum and God, dude, they get us everywhere. Like
yeah.
we are under duress. Like they are attacking us.
So
And
full front assault, man. Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty wild. They've thought this through.
right. And now they got our compliance to get under our skin. Who's gonna trust that? I can't believe like my family did it, my wife's family did it. Like I just, oh god.
Yeah,
I mean,
there
I
was
don't
a
mean to
few
out
people.
people or
My
whatever. Sorry.
household was basically the only ones that didn't, and I convinced my mom not to.
Man, good
That's
for
all I
you.
could do. The rest of my family are like, yeah, and I'll go get a booster too.
Jesus.
Stupid
Yeah.
asshole.
I convinced my mom. She said she wouldn't, and then she went and did it anyway.
Uh,
She knew I'd be mad
sorry,
about it.
man.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but they are complying with evil, so they get what they get. I can't save
Well,
them.
and they're the Christians too, and I'm like, you guys don't
Yeah,
see this as like a precursor to the mark of the beast. You
it
don't.
is.
None of this is
Yeah,
like ringing
yeah,
any fucking bells for you.
right.
Yeah,
Compliance with evil, voting for lesser of two evils. That's evil. If you're doing it too, then they're all evil. It's like all your neighbors and shit. They're all Agent Smith, just waiting to, it's like 1984. Little kids will rat you out and get you
well, see,
sent
and
to the
that's what
gulag.
NPCs are, and that's what the whole
Yeah,
Agent Smith thing is.
right.
It's like when you break the Matrix by like saying something like this, you watch Agent Smith pop into them, and
Yeah,
they fucking attack you. You
that's
know?
true. It's like a
Yeah, man.
wetico. It's a mind virus. This illusion. Like I must be part of the cult, and I must, comply, and I must enforce this on my neighbor. Look, he's got more than 5 people in his yard with having a grill, whatever. Like I'm gonna call the cops. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
call the enforcement wing of my illusion. It's evil. And when people vote, they're enslaving their neighbors too, who didn't vote. Like no president is legitimate. Like if you look at the real numbers, lots more people didn't vote. That should nullify all of it. If
Yeah.
it's true democracy, but people don't want to believe their mind control is so thick that they can't break free. It's like, oh, it's a red blue. Oh, I gotta pay the tax. I gotta do for the flag is like over me, and I must allegiance to a piece of fabric. Like what?
It's
Allegiance to
fascinating,
this
man.
dollar bill. Like
I wonder
yeah,
how many of us are like natural born anarchists because one thing that my fucking well, I think the majority of us are
right. My
without the
son is.
programming,
That's
but
for
like,
sure.
oh, my son is. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
But like one of the things that I chose to do after third grade, it was like in the middle of third grade, I was in Christian school, and I decided that I was no longer going to salute the flag, and they thought I was demon possessed.
Right. Yeah, they can't
I'm
even
like,
fathom that.
I'm like, dog, you don't find that as idolatrous? Why is this flag even inside the
Yeah,
chapel right now?
right. And
Why do
that's
we have the
just like
American
just
flag?
like Caesar was in everybody's chapel, you
Yep.
know?
Make sure that American flag with the little eagle on top, that golden
Right.
eagle right
The
on top.
eagle is a symbol of Roman power. That is true. the symbol of state power is the eagle, and it came from Rome. They had this dude with a staff in front of their legions, and it had an eagle on top. And
What did
then
they
it,
call that? What the hell was that called? It was like their not their idol, but they would they would carry that around. I
yeah,
can't
I
think of the word
forget
for
the
it, but
name
yeah.
of it.
But it was a symbol of power,
Yes.
and it was almost like cutting Samson's hair when they lost that eagle. You remember, like
Oh,
they
like
lost
capture the
that
flag or
battle.
whatever,
Yeah, it
you
was like
know.
capture the flag. It
Right,
was like a
right.
symbolic thing, and it was a mental
Yeah.
thing for
Just
them
like you
too.
can't let the
Yeah.
flag touch the ground. Oh, like for America or whatever. Like it's just,
Meanwhile,
yeah,
I'm
it's
pissing on it.
idolatry. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right, right. Yeah, I turn it upside down and I get in arguments with strangers. But whatever. So like I mean, we I don't know where I was going. I guess like we didn't never really
Natural born
talked about.
anarchists, man.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think that we, like I said before, we're all wired for love. We're all wired for human connection and growth in a love society where care and understanding of harm is evident. Like look at the natural societies that are still living in the bush or whatnot, or like look at the Native American, Native American Indians, and like that, they had anarchist society. Like look at the
The
Rainbow
Irish,
Gathering,
man.
the
The
Rainbow
Irish
Gathering.
were fucking
Yeah. Well,
forever, dude. For millennia until they were broken by the
right,
fucking British.
right, and that's why the British still like hates Ireland and still dominates them and still divides them. Like, um, it's sad and it's sick. And my ancestors are Irish and on both sides, and like we cut the wilderness. Like we got to be friends with the Native Americans, like, and we were both running from British, like, so. But anyway, like, we don't need to get into that, and like, so the if you look at the natural state of humans, we recognize free will and self ownership and care and love, and that a lot of us understand that we are a soul, not just a body, and there's higher levels of existence, and that can all exist. We all coexist, and that has to be broken, like by a hierarchical structure of power, and that's the only way that we become slaves. So that's why trauma on different levels creates the dissociation and creates the fracture in our consciousness, so that we think that, oh, the flag is important, and like look, after 9/11, everybody had like little flags made in China. They were all on everybody's car, and everybody like, we're all American now, like, because the trauma affected all of us. We all watched the TV all day, the plane going boom, explosion, and like,
Dude, they've been trying that again and again and again, and it hasn't worked, which is really fascinating. You remember, like, we're all in this together. That was the Rona's
right,
fucking
right,
mantra. We're
never
all in
forget.
this
It was
together.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that goes into like the mind control of the masses, like, um, look at the mass psychosis. What the hell? I
Yeah, I
forget.
know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Mass psychosis for if
yeah.
mass formation
Mass
psychosis or whatever.
formation, right? Yes, and that whole phenomenon is being utilized. It was being utilized by Hitler, and that's why he demonized the Jews. And that's the same mental assault, I guess, on the people that creates that, and they're just doing it again because it worked so well the first time, and so like they got it in their coffers, just all of Mao and Stalin and Hitler and all that stuff was like practice for what's coming next, and they're all like, and they're watching how it affects the society and the mental, and
I've got a buddy that
it's all collectivism.
loves Mao, and I
Oh,
just don't
what?
get
Holy
it.
crap! How could you be friends
he's
with him?
he's
Uh,
been my best friend for years. We both became anarchists He went the ANCOM variety,
Oh my
and I
God.
went the voluntarist variety,
Good.
the
Good.
agorist
Right.
variety, and we
I'm
still can
sorry.
have these conversations. We can still have like he'll have conversations with me. I can see he gets mad. He wants to punch me,
Yeah.
but he'll still have these conversations with me. Luckily, because we've
Well,
known each other long enough. Um,
talking is very therapeutic and it helps affect the way that we engage in the world. Like I just had Mark Passio on my show, and we emphasized the fact that the voice is affects other people's consciousness. It's not just their actions. Like I can hold your arms, but if I can speak into your head, you can choose not to use your arms against me. It's magic to speak into, and another it can affect their causal realm of consciousness in before it gets to the effect realm of moving your body and doing stuff in the world. And it's important that we still speak because, and even the mass formation that is cured by speaking the truth all the time, and that is how that's how you plant seeds in other people's heads when they're like, "You gotta wear a mask to get in here." You can be like, "It doesn't work. Even the box says this." You could tell them logic. You could tell them whatever. You could tell them, I own my face. Go away." You know, like there's many things, and you can tell them why, and then you can explain to them like as a person, like then it gets in there, and then it's running as like a schism on the record, and it doesn't, like the mind control is harmed a little bit every time they hear the truth, and that's how we affect the world is through speech. So if you can convince this guy that like Mao killed a lot of people on purpose, Mao
Dude,
enslaved
the
freaking
excuses these motherfuckers make.
ugh.
Yeah, and to me, it's absolutely wild. Like, I don't know if you'll listen to this or not, but like, I don't really care. Uh, when you start saying, "Yeah, but those were the bad people," and but those people, it was necessary sacrifice for
That's
the greater
Satanism.
good. I'm like,
Satanism.
motherfucker, dude.
That's de
Like,
facto
look at your
Satanism.
mom. I'm gonna go kill her. This is for the greater good. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Like, this is fine, right? Because this is for the greater good. I'm gonna fucking murder your mom right now. Like,
Yeah, right.
oh, you have a problem with that? Oh, so
Yeah.
homie's mom though, that was fine. Homie's mom being fucking murdered.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
his
And
kid
if it
sister is like his little brother. Yeah, his whole
yeah.
family.
Yeah, like it's that is the mind control. It's a veil that keeps them from seeing truth and like
When you
um
start making those excuses, that's when you. I think that's when you like you're putting the
moral
fucking
relativism
clay
is
over your eyes, man.
right.
You're allowing
Right.
that. Like,
Moral relativism
yeah,
is the start of the satanic ideology. Like that well actually self as most important. Ego is the first, but then that ends up becoming moral relativism. Like I deserve to steal from you, like so whatever, and then that goes into the next tenets of Satanism, which is like social Darwinism, like I'm better than you because I deserve, and then finally eugenics, like I get to kill you because you don't deserve, and it's
only
that's
the
what it is.
strong deserve
Exactly.
to survive. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
They're
and
under
that
the
whole
illusion that the
post.
predator thing is the most important organizer of nature. But they don't see the wider recognize the wider truth that everything is like coexisting with each other. Like you look at the fungus with the trees and the plants with the animals, and and you understand that everything is symbiotic with each other except for like this 1% of predators that are running around trying to eat each other. Everybody else is getting along. That's like, and so anyway, they are under the illusion that the true order of nature is the predator thing because there is no higher order of
And
like
for me,
morality to them.
I don't even like to use the word Christian, but as like a as a Christ follower, I believe that we are all created by a creator. We all have a
Right.
purpose. We are all here on purpose. We're all here to serve a purpose. And,
Right.
I mean, and the fucked up thing is that also includes the bad guys.
Yeah. 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 And if you think about that, like what, Satan is just a stumbling block to help you see the true path. And,
I mean, that also gets
there's a
you to
lot
start
to that.
questioning the nature of this existence, and is this a simulation, and are we like in a fucking like school right now?
Yeah.
Like, is this a soul school? We're
I
sent
believe
here to
so.
learn
Yeah.
lessons and all this crazy stuff. And in that way, is someone like Bill Gates or Klaus Schwab, are they even real? That's the question of like,
Well, they've
NPC or
been
reptilian, or are they part of the design themselves? Like, are they an obstacle for us to learn from? Are they
they've
like they're
yeah,
the boss of this mode right here, and that we
right.
have to deal with? And you
Well,
know,
we do have free will, and like they get to choose evil, right? Like because their free will can do that here. Um, but it's like they, their humanity has been taken away from all of this. Like they have trauma, they have chosen evil, and it goes and goes until they're just a husk shell of a human. There's no humanity inside anymore. But they started off as a human, but they got ritually traumatized, most likely. And, look at Bill Gates's family. You know, his dad was friends with Rockefeller, and like his mom's
he's
family
the
was
head of
on.
Planned Parenthood,
Oh, right. Yeah. He
yeah,
was like managing Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood is like,
biggest
the,
eugenics operation of all
right.
time. And also, I
Right.
think adrenochrome and different things like that. I
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
They
that's
sell
the
the
new
bodies. Right.
neo adrenochrome. Like, I think it's
Yeah.
probably out of fashion, and it's harder to like steal kids and drink their blood and torture them, right?
No,
Unless
they
they're
do it all the
foster
time. It's
kids,
not
right?
hard
If
at
you
all.
have them.
They do it
Well,
all
I
the
mean,
time.
if you
Yeah.
have a segment of the population like foster kids or like
Right.
orphans, kind of things that you can
Yep.
just kind of, no one looks at, no one
Yep.
pays attention to. Oh, they went
Yeah.
missing. Oh, they're probably just a kid prostitute or something, ran away, right? So you have no idea. Well, we'll just never see them again. That sort of
Children
thing. But
are,
I've
yeah,
also kind of thought that maybe Planned Parenthood was also why they fight for it so vehemently, is because that's a huge amount of baby
right.
that you
They
can just,
killed, like
all
Kanye
those
was right,
parts.
Ye was right when he said that more black babies die in America at Planned
Yeah,
Parenthood
man,
than are
that's part of
born.
it too.
Right.
Yeah,
And if you see like the propaganda and you know about Margaret Sanger and how she told the preachers to, tell their flock to kill their babies. And she was part of the eugenics movement, which, Hitler was
she
part of this whole
literally
thing.
won awards from the
Yeah.
fascists, from Hitler.
Right.
They gave Margaret Sanger awards.
Yeah. And she was
Yeah, I
like
mean that's
banging
part of it
H.G.
too, dude.
Wells, and she was like having all of these like occult, like she's part of the club, you
Yeah,
know? And like with that whole ideology of like I can kill them, they're the weed races. That's Satanism. They don't have to believe in Satan, right? You
literally
know.
doing speeches at KKK rallies.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, give me
Like
your money. I'll kill lots
KK
of black babies. Like that's,
KKK is
yeah.
like is a Masonic order. It was started by Albert Pike. And on the
He was
cover of his
there.
book, it says Order Ab Chao, and the eagle has two heads, looking both ways. For like east and west, they rule it all.
That's a
That's
fascinating thing, man. I had Paranoid American on here, and we talked about, the first, the KKK
Albert
was a
Pike,
Masonic. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
it's pretty
Albert Pike
fascinating.
is from Newburyport, Massachusetts. Like that's where George Washington and the gang were hanging out. Like it was, it's and he started the newer Scottish Rite thing. He was in charge of that, and he went down south, and he was like running the thing. And wrote the book, and he was under the impression he was Eliphas Levi, like reincarnated. Like it's it takes mind control to create a monster, and that so. But anyway, uh, that that was another form of control. You can use like when they freed these slaves and they need to control them. So that's why the police force was created. An officer, an overseer. It's the same word. Like, uh, you know, what's his name? The rapper taught us that. Uh,
Prodigy. I
no,
don't know.
no, the
I was
rap.
listening to him yesterday, and he's just got some
Um,
fucking good shit.
no, the God damn, KRS-One.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, KRS-One taught us about that. But anyway, the police were created to control the freed slaves because the slaves understand that they are, this is hardcore slavery and they need to get free. So they were aware, like, whoa, I'm enslaved, I need to get free. We are still under the illusion,
That
but
we're
they
free
needed to
men.
have a
Yeah, it's
force.
fascinating. They have, yeah, like you said, there's multi tiers. It's like
Right,
they so like those white folks that were like poor, they don't realize they're slaves
right.
because they look at the black people over there and they're slaves. Like
Yeah,
I did some research into this. I thought this was fascinating. So the Irish were some of the first slaves that were brought
yes,
over here,
totally.
right? So the indentured servitude, it was slightly different
Right.
because you would come over here and you'd have to work hard labor for whoever your master
Yeah, a
was
lot of
for
people
about
didn't
7 to 10 years.
survive. A lot of them
Yeah.
didn't
So,
survive.
but at the end of it, you could own property. They would have to give you a little piece of land and they give you a gun. Which so there was a difference there. I have to make that little caveat, but
Yeah, there was more freedom. Yeah.
because you were white looking, I guess, or whatever reason why, because you spoke the language or
But
whatever,
if you look
But
at Darwin, Darwin put the Irish under the Africans,
yeah,
closer to apes. Doesn't
it's
matter the
fucked
skin
up, man.
color. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you guys were never part of the wasps. You were never the wasp elite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were
That's why
always,
we
yeah.
had to cut the wilderness in America and make a real home, And that's why that's why Americans broke free because we had this innate freedom and hatred to the British, like, um, and
Yeah.
Scotch Irish, like, seriously, like. But anyway,
Yeah, no one hated the British more than the Scots and the Irish. Yeah.
hmm
Because the
that's right.
British are cunts, dude. I
Yeah,
still hate them.
right. Me
Anyways.
too. Right, me too.
but uh but what I was gonna say is like what they did with the indentured servants is they brought them over here and they were working alongside with black slaves, and then you started to see a little like class camaraderie. You started to see like the Irish were looking over the blacks and the blacks were looking over the Irish and they're like, man, these British are cunts, huh?
Yeah,
Like they were
right.
like there started to be a little like class solidarity between them, and
Yes,
then the British got fucking scared because there's a hell of a lot of slaves, and then these slaves over here they're white and have guns,
right.
and so to me it
Yeah,
was
and
fascinating.
that's still
That's
the
why they
enemy to them
stopped.
now. Right.
Well, it was smart because then that's when they stopped doing it. People say it's because like the white Irish they were like dying too much in the fields or whatever, and that might have been true, and maybe whatever it is. But they literally stopped doing the Irish. Um, they stopped doing the
Importing them.
importing them
Right.
basically and using them as slaves
Yeah, but then they
because
took all their
they
food and
wanted
then.
them.
Yeah, yeah,
They That's when they made a middle class.
right.
They said, "You still can't be us. Like
Right.
we're up here,
Right.
but you're better than the slaves." And so then it broke that class camaraderie, that like that
Yeah.
solidarity started to begin because like there was going to be an actual uprising. There was going to be a revolt, and the British squashed it by just like by
Right.
giving the Irish pennies.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
you're not okay. You're not a black person. You're a little bit better. You're not quite a slave
Yeah.
anymore. We'll give you something,
Right. And
and then
that's
they
what
they
fueled the
stopped it.
KKK's mentality. Like, a
But it's
lot of the.
always that
Yeah.
separation, right?
Right.
It's always
Divide and
that
conquer.
breaking, divide and conquer,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because if they hung out up top by themselves and they didn't have like a structure, then the rest of the structure would be like, fuck you.
Right.
We'd actually see who was oppressing us,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. And the only way they can keep their structure is with blackmail because they're all psychopaths, you know? And that's the only reason, that's the only thing that keeps people between the lines. Uh, because otherwise they'd be, dog eat dog killing each other, you know? So it's got to keep people down below with humiliation and these, satanic ritual abuse breaks them as like mentally and it keeps them uh, easy to conquer, right? And the humiliation rituals and the the
It
deviant
probably
sex and
started
all
with
that
having
stuff, and the
those young
eating babies
boys.
and
Yeah,
right.
but I'm sure it started with those young boys dressing them up as girls
Oh yeah,
and abusing them, and
right,
that's part of that humiliation ritual. And
right,
like, this is some of those things that we do to you,
right.
and
Do
now
you want
it's
me to read that
progressed so
list? We
far.
didn't
Oh
get to
yeah,
that list. Okay,
yeah.
so this is some of the. So according to a bill passed in Illinois in 1993, satanic ritual abuse is defined as follows. Now this is they don't. This is a way that they can bring it to court without having to prove that the person believes in Satan for it to be satanic ritual abuse, and this defines the term basically in the law. So if the perpetrator commits any of these acts on a child or in the presence of children, a person commits ritual abuse when he 1. Actually or in simulation tortures, mutilates, or sacrifices any warm blooded animal or human being. 2. Forces ingestion, injection, or other application of any narcotic drug, hallucinogen, or anesthetic for the purpose of dulling sensitivity. We can think about fluoride and all that stuff. So, anyway, uh,
Ritalin. Yeah,
dulling sensitivity,
yeah.
cognition, recollection of, or resistance to any criminal activity. 3. Forces ingestion or external application of human or animal urine, feces, flesh, blood, bones, body secretions, non prescribed drugs, or chemical compounds. 4. Involves the child in a mock, unauthorized, or unlawful marriage ceremony with another person or representation of any force or deity, followed by sexual contact with the child. 5. Placing a living child into a coffin or open grave containing a human corpse or remains. 6. Threatens death or serious harm to a child, his or her parents, family, pets, or friends, which instills a well founded fear in the child that the threat will be carried out. 7. The last one, unlawfully dissects, mutilates, or incinerates a human corpse. That's what they do to kids to make them fracture their psychology. They become a different, their consciousness has to leave their body, and it splits the consciousness because those memories need to be walled off so that the front consciousness can survive living. It's like it's like going into shock. You know, the body does it to protect itself. And over the years since Babylon, they've been doing these things to kids, killing the kids and torturing. And that's the Moloch sacrifice. You know, after they have their fertility ritual, there's all these kids. What do you do with them? You know, it's eugenics, like it's always been. And it's, you know, culling the masses. And so, anyway, throw them in the fire. And it, like, whatever. And so they've seen what it does to the psychology of the kids that are left alive. And this creates the splits and the fractures, and it creates the dissociation, and they've found ways to use it over the years. And like I said, MK Ultra really ramped it up. But this is like, these things that I listed are what can break and does break the human consciousness. And when they do it to youth, to young children, uh, this is before a child has had a chance to become a self yet. They're still evolving into a self. Like they are born part of the mother. You know, their consciousness is connected, and eventually, that, you know, by the time they're like 7 or 8, they they understand their, you know, selfness and what it is. Like, their consciousness hasn't developed yet to that point. So so this is a mechanical way of creating a robot person that can be wielded like a Manchurian candidate. And because we're wired for love, doing the opposite and creating the fear And what they a lot of this, the torture is followed by sexual stimulation and abuse or whatnot, and so the wires get,
Connecting the two in your head. Yeah.
yeah, they get crossed, and it creates a psychopath, and look at like the sadomasochism, like the Marquis de Sade type shit. Like what,
And
look at Kinsey. Look at Kinsey.
what's the most bought book ever? That
Oh
50
yeah, yeah,
Shades of Grey.
yeah,
You can
right.
see how well that,
And what that is slavery and sexual domination and it's predator mentality. It's Satanism. Like yeah, it all comes back to that, and like the morality of things, and what and if you can make someone want to be your slave, then yeah, it's cool, like to them. But like we are all free beings, and we are all like we should all be given the right to be free. So enslaving another is morally wrong, and it takes a satanic brain to want that, and that's cultured in our society, like it's grown as we get older. Like we're inflicted all this worldview poisoning and television programming, and like I said before, the circumcision abuse and birth trauma itself, like the ultrasounds and
well, and the way
all
they
this.
do it is so fucked up too, because it's not natural. Like
Right.
there is trauma, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely,
Right.
that they're inflicting in the
Right.
hospital, and then those doctors like not listening to the woman when she's telling you like
Oh yeah.
he's coming, like I
Right.
feel him right now, like my body's telling me, like
Right.
they did all kinds of shit when my wife was in the hospital, like
Right. And they're like, strapped down. They don't have any
they were just
ability to
like,
do
"Shut up,
anything.
we're gonna
Right.
we're gonna give you something to go to sleep." And
Right.
she's like, "I'm telling you, he's coming." And they were like, "All right, well, let's see." And she was like 9 centimeters, and they were like, "Oh, oh fuck, okay, he's coming right now."
Yeah.
Like
Great.
they sent the doctor home, her doctor
Yeah.
that was gonna do it. They sent her home. Get some sleep. You're going to bed for the night. We're gonna give you some fucking like I don't know some terrible
Right.
cocktail of drugs and put you to sleep.
Right. Which they
Uh,
have scientifically understood to like oxytocin. It gets interrupted by this stuff called pitocin, and oxytocin creates the bond between the mother and baby, and like that's one of the things that they inject, and it creates this division. That's circumcision also creates a division and distrust, and like it creates a divide between the bond of the mother and the child. And if you look at like all the mass murderers in history, they've all had a real bad relationship with their mother, you know. And if you look at like even even Psycho and stuff, like the dude was like, like he was traumatized by his mother, and it reacted out
that's the most
because
important
that was the
relationship.
core self of the person was damaged, and so it becomes like that person is resonating the evil and becomes a psychopath, and you know uh, and it created fractures in that dude's mind, like he would dress up like his mom, and like he would like his brain was split, fractured from the abuse. Like, so a lot of these things in Hollywood will teach you these, like it's helpful or whatever. But if you look at reality, like the stuff that I just read, these are the things that are prosecuted in court. Like, this is what really happened to a lot of children. And a lot of people think, oh, it's too gross. People don't do that. And then when you realize that other people don't think like you, you know, and when you see their symbols and they're wielding them in this certain way, and like, whoa, that's an organized thing, and like that's
I
really
mean, people
happening.
want to scoff it off, but like I'm kind of surprised, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing about this Balenciaga becoming such a big fucking thing,
Right.
because I think that it's also going to be looked at like a QAnon sort of thing. Oh, like oh, you think
Look at
that's
what they
happening?
did to
It's just like
Pizzagate.
the Balenciaga thing
Yeah.
because they're going to like they're going to squash the story. They're going to say that it was taken
Right.
out of context.
Right.
This is
New York
just
Times
fucking
already did
silly.
that.
Yeah, but like, dude, everything's there.
I
They're
know.
showing you,
I
and
know. It
they
even
have
says
them.
Baal on the tape. Like what? Like, Yeah, that's what they sacrifice the kids to, everybody. And like the kids like laying face down on the couch. Like, what's that? Like that shit's gross. Like, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
gross,
gross.
man.
Yeah.
But I think that this was the necessary sacrifice. They sacrificed Balenciaga.
Right.
That they've
Well, they
smeared
threw
them.
Epstein under the
Yeah,
bus, right? Like they had a lone gunman and all their stuff. Like it's that's how they do it. That's how they skirt the and that's it's yeah, this is all control and slavery, right? That's how they do it. Like and then when they show you their dark shine and like, look what we do to kids, like we do this, and they show
well,
you all the
that's the thing with
symbols.
Balenciaga is they did. They showed
Yeah,
you. They said, "Look,
they even had that piece of paper from the court
yeah."
documents. Like, yeah, so
So
um,
that was their
it's
reveal. They're telling you,
blatantly
"This is what we
revealed,
do. This is
right,
what we're going to do."
right, just
And
like
so, if you now choose to ignore it, because the New York Times told you it was nothing,
yeah,
that's just fake news. So
right,
now, if you ignore it, it's okay. We're gonna fucking take your kids.
right. And look at what Kinsey wrote down in his book, in the psychology, the sexual whatever in the human male. 1948, he wrote down the abuse of children, and he wrote down that an orgasm means that they're fighting and trying to get away and screaming. That's what? Like, and people read this book and said, this is the new understanding of the sexuality of humans, and we need to change the laws. And he was, funded by Rockefeller. Like, it was in your face in 1948, and everybody just didn't look. And now look at they're chopping kids' genitalia off, or inverting it, or whatever they do. It's
Yeah, man.
it's sick, and it
That's
is
a
the
satanic
same.
ritual. It's
Yes, dude, and it's the same fertility shit as Inanna, Ishtar, Cybele. Like it's the same. Like
that's the only reason why these like celebrities would just be like praising it. When you see the list of how many of these
yeah,
celebrities are just stoked to have I mean, they them babies that
yeah.
like they're
Angelina Jolie years ago had her breasts removed and her uterus removed. Like all of her femaleness has been removed long before, and she said that oh maybe she might have got breast cancer. Like what? Like that she's under the spell, and she works for them, like obviously, but she does dark ritual and shit. But it's part of it. Like they want to be non-sexual, non-dual. They want because the God is non-dual, right? We're divided here on Earth. Like they want to be the oneness, right? And so this removal or blurring of sexuality is like it's like a denial of nature, and it's an affront to the Creator who made this place in a duality. Um, they do praise duality a lot, they're because they like to be not united with God. Like they want to stay at Earth level. They want to stay in hell. They don't want to graduate out. So they keep doing evil because they think it's great here. It's
yeah,
yeah,
that was a fascinating thing. My whole thoughts is like the whole transhumanism and that whole movement of them trying to uh, marry themselves into the machines, right?
right,
Trying to merge into the machines and trying to upload their consciousness. It's them just trying to run away from judgment.
right,
And
yeah,
so if
right,
they don't die, if they
yeah.
just get uploaded into the ether, then
But they're under the illusion that their reality of existence is just their memories. Like they can just put it on a couple terabytes. Like, oh,
no.
that's me, and then like and then it'll be just like Soylent Green when the old man goes to get killed. Like, okay, go ahead and kill me, and they inject him and kill him, and then they use his body parts, just like the dark occult does. Like they
Yep.
feed on us, in more ways than one, and it's just a way of getting people to comply with being killed by the government. And democide is the biggest killer of people, and it always has been. That's why everybody should be anarchist.
It's
Anyway,
fascinating too. I mean, if they can convince us that our consciousnesses can be uploaded and then put into a new body, kind of like that Altered Carbon, that
So
show that they put
silly.
on Netflix and things like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they just have some algorithm. They're going to have AIs that have been watching us since MySpace, and that has been just watching
Yeah.
our every movements that can just mimic us. Like pretty soon, they're just going to have like, yeah, see, Grandpa's not dead. You can still talk to him. He's on the computer. This is
Yeah,
Grandpa.
they'll charge
Uh,
money for it.
yeah,
Whatever.
and you get to talk to Grandpa, but really, you're just like typing and talking in one of those stupid AI bots. But
Right.
this one has been like mimicked, and it has like knows Grandpa's personality, knows what kind of porn he likes, what kind of food he likes, what kind of like all this
Right.
kind of weird shit, every
Yeah,
dark
dude.
aspect of him because he's been sitting there on the phone,
Right.
doing whatever.
And, and while we're alive, they can wield us by knowing all those things, you
So
know?
now Grandpa isn't a burden anymore. We don't have to pay his medical bills anymore.
Right.
We don't have to like chop up all his food real fine for him and whatever. Like we still get to keep Grandpa, but now he's not in pain anymore. So this is
Right.
good.
And we
Actually,
donated
we're
his
doing this as
body
a
to the government.
favor to Grandpa.
Right, right, right. And he went gently and nice and we put him in a mushroom pot and he turned into a tree or whatever. Like,
Exactly.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, new age weirdos.
My
That's all
actually a
Satanism
friend of
too.
mine started a business, and I think he is a nice guy, but I don't think he's a psycho. But
Sure,
his whole
yeah, yeah.
business was taking people's remains and then adding them to coral reefs, was so that you got to be like part
Hmm.
of this coral reef that got to grow, and
I
that's kind
guess
of a
that
neat idea.
that's
But
nice if you wish that. I mean, that's the same as like sprinkling ashes or whatever. That's
yeah,
whatever. But I mean, like the idea of using people's bodies for things, like they use the waste of humans in gardening and shit now,
yeah,
and people ingest drugs and they get poisoned with fluoride and stuff, and then their waste is like poisonous, and
yeah,
then they
gross.
spread that
They're
on the food.
biohazard.
It's yeah,
They're
dude.
full of
It's
spike proteins.
right, right. And that's why the elite grow their ritual victims. They don't want to have to drink the bad blood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick.
They got that good organic human over there.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, what did I guess I explained everything like what I was saying there. Do you like tell me about I guess whatever else you or ask me whatever that did I interest you in anything like over the years or over the time that you've been listening?
Dude, I think we've really covered the gamut.
Okay,
This was a fun episode, man.
that's
This was a
great,
lot of
man.
fun.
That's great.
Yeah, we're coming up here on 2 hours, so I'll let you get back to your family.
Oh, right
Uh,
on.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Like it's I like to stretch the ideas and think about like many things, and I'm glad that we could share that. Everybody can listen to me at Wake the Dead podcast, and you can find me at like Spotify, Google, Apple, and all those podcast places, and Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble. I haven't tried Rockfin yet. I don't know. I probably should. I get a lot.
Rockman's pretty good, man. I
Yeah,
like it.
man. And so, like, you can find me at all those places. And I also have, I'm a visual artist, I'm a photographer, and I've, like, over the years, like, many years, I've been selling t shirts. And it's like to help me get along on the road. And, like, I used to live in a van and, like, a camper or whatever. And like so I've had these designs and I've been living on them for all these years. Well, not living on, they don't make money, but whatever. I create these designs and I want to share them with everybody, and so I have a store, virtual, like an online store, and you can visit storefrontier.com/wake the dead, and there you can find, I've got like fine art photography on shirts, and I've got anarchist designs and a couple funny ones, and so it's pretty good.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think that and I like some of them have the definition of anarchy printed on them, so you can start a good conversation with people. Another one says all cops are bad on the back, where you can start a good conversation with people. There's many, it's useful, and I think that when people see the truth, then they have to. It goes in, and it's another way of communicating, and so like I put a lot of effort into those, and I failed to mention it so much, and I should more and more. Like, So anyway, I did, and I'll
Good
give you
man.
my
Yeah,
links to share or whatever.
perfect.
And I hope everybody gives a listen to Wake the Dead and comes along in my journey. And thank you for letting me join you here today.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So for all my
Awesome.
audience that hasn't heard Sean McCann, you're crazy. Uh, uh, he's fucking awesome, as you can hear. So definitely go check out Wake the Dead, and he's been on 100 other shows. So yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Sean,
Oh,
for coming on. Yeah,
also, they should listen to Black Pill Digest. I just
Black
started a new show with
Digest.
my friend James Cordner, where we discuss the things that are happening, the truths that are black pill that we all need to understand. That's a new show. I don't want to forget that too. Black Pill Digest.
Black
Uh,
Pill Digest. I love it, man. And I got to pimp out my shirt real fast. The company, both Bohemian Grove, is a they're fucking cool, man. They're
that's
they're a
great.
local company out here too. One of the guys that lives out here in Portland. They sent me these shirts, so they're like a new sponsor of mine. So I'm gonna give them a
That's
shout out.
fantastic. I like the name. That's funny. Yeah.
And yes, thank you everyone, and thank you, Sean. Thank
Cheers,
you,
man.
brother.